This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
NBA team podcast here. Adam Murray, one half of it. Speaking on behalf of my co-host Andrew Riche. Send him a shout out on Twitter at Andrew Riche. He likes getting Twitter things. I don't have a Twitter, so don't worry about me. We're sort of sorry, all these are coming at you at once before the season. But with the season here 2 weeks early, and then, life being in the way, you sort of run out of time fast, and giving a full discussion to each team as opposed to just glossing it over. Okay, here's your 1 hour for the East, here's your 1 hour for the West. No, what about this? Here's just an hour. Talk about the season in general. What? Huh? No, we're getting into each team. We're going not deep dives in the roster because really, the two-way players, good for you guys, but you'll be, as we saw last year, there was quite interchangeable, and it sort of seemed to be a loophole, and agents are sort of figuring that out, and it's like, well, we're a two-way player, okay, we'll just cut him, we'll get a new two-way player, and, they sort of bounced around a lot, but I digress. The issue here is this is part 4 of 5. We got one more to go after this. We've got a solid 6 teams on the docket for you today. We talk about Milwaukee a bit, we talk about Atlanta a bit, and we bounce around from there. And we hope you enjoy again. Send any feedback to at Andrew Riche at Twitter. He will inform me. And all right, enjoy the show.
All right, Adam. Let's start with the Atlanta Hawks, which we always started with when we started our previews, because we would do it alphabetically, and it just always fell on Atlanta because I'm pretty sure they're the only NBA team with the letter A in it. We need to fix this. We need to get more teams with with A's, maybe B. How many B's are in there in the league? Boston, Brooklyn. Is there another one?
Well, we could rename Phoenix the Arizona Suns.
Yeah. Well, haven't we always talked about the fact that the Western Conference, it always starts with Dallas? And there's no A, B, or C's in the Western Conference?
Yeah, and always with Atlanta, it's just, they went from that unexciting, well, they have their super team, which we all saw through, and then it's just, well, now they've fallen apart. And now is the unfortunate, they have to try to rebuild the same time everybody else is trying to rebuild. So they're I don't know where their dumpster fire level is, but it's pretty dumpster fire-ish.
Yeah, now they had a high draft pick, and I wouldn't say that they traded down. They wanted Trae Young, but they had, was it the number 2 pick or the number 3 pick?
They had the number 3 pick.
And they took Luka Doncic, but it was just a hold so that they could trade it to Dallas because they wanted Trae Young.
Yeah, so they could gather assets in hope they could get a once-in-a-generational star like Luka Doncic. But that's what unfortunately what Trae Young will be measured against the rest of his career of, the same way Penny was always measured against Chris Webber because, well, you traded for him and then all of a sudden, you got injured. Hey, who's not injured? Chris Webber. Who's still scoring 20 and 10? Chris Webber. Oh, so yeah. It's a lot of pressure for this kid who, he was.
That's the burden you bear when you make the deal. It happened unfortunately with the late Robert Tractor Trailer, and Dirk Nowitzki. Who was the more recent one? Frank Ntilikina and Dennis Smith Jr.? That's another one that everybody sort of second guesses. It wasn't a trade. It was just that one was picked over the other.
It's always
Minnesota picking 2-point guards over Steph Curry. We've heard that a million times now. Things like that. So,
yeah, so that's what
we could kind of go backwards a little bit with Atlanta because this was when Mike Budenholzer was coaching the team, but the team was basically stripped bare outside of Kent Bazemore and Dennis Schroeder, and they went 24-58. I mean, it was a really rotten team. They were bad on offense. They were bad on defense. They really couldn't do much. They were the youngest team in the league. Their salary floor was I think they were at somewhere – actually – they were at $100 million, right at the cap, probably because of Bazemore's contract, right?
Yeah, they had Bazemore, and then they
who they picked up in the Dwight Howard trade.
Yeah,
you know.
so they had salary, which with the 2016 summer, everybody has salary. It's really hard to hit the basement floor. It's just the problem with this team is they have nobody worth watching. Your purpose is to stockpile picks and stockpile talent. And, you like Taurean Prince. You think he can be something, which we need.
He has that Swiss Army knife type of game. He can do a little bit of everything. John Collins was a very good rookie, too.
See, the thing, Collins was a very good rookie, but now people expect him to be a cornerstone. It's kind of hard to go from a very good to,
that you can't say that. And the other thing, too, I mean, we could talk about some of the other guys that are mainstays. Ken Bazemore's contract's at $18 million. It's just an unmovable deal, so he wasn't traded in the offseason. Dwayne Dedman, I believe he re-signed there, am I right? Or did he use his player option, which sort of surprised people?
I don't know what he did, which is horrible for previews where we forget what half their talent.
He used his player option to stay with Atlanta. So
well, that's with the way the money shrunk so fast, that probably wasn't a bad idea. However, it was just with this upcoming roster, you dump everybody, and so you got Trae Young, you got Collins and Taurean Prince. What else do we have in this team that's worth watching?
They signed Vince Carter, who I would have to assume this will be his final year. Jeremy Lin was picked up in that in a trade. I don't remember how he wound up in there from Brooklyn. Was this some kind of a Carmelo thing? Because Carmelo was picked up and then they used his money as dead cap to buy him out.
I don't know how that Carmelo deal worked. The Carmelo they got Carmelo.
I mean Schroeder they lost Schroeder in the deal. We know that.
They didn't lose him. They took on Carmelo's salary just to offload Dennis Schroeder.
Oh, you're saying that Dennis Schroeder was wasted,
they wanted him gone so bad.
How could you say that about German Rondo? He was a good player. He averaged 19 points, 6 assists.
Was he a good player? Or was he just
well, Oklahoma City's hoping so.
But it was one of those. He was a top 25 point guard, but that doesn't mean anything in a 30-team league.
Mm-hmm.
And they just he was a locker room. I guess he was in a locker room. He wasn't very happy in the locker room.
Oh yeah, he was in battle with the coaches all the time about playing time.
So it's just one of the things your talent's not that good. We paid for your future. However, your future wasn't anything. So the Jeremy Lin deal was just this. I don't want to say it was a salary ad just by Brooklyn. Brooklyn traded a second-round pick.
Yeah, I mean it was just very odd how that deal got.
Yeah, it was okay. We need Schroeder, but we need a point guard. So let's get Lin to tutor Young. That's all. And was.
Jeremy Lin was good before the injuries. It wasn't like he was bad.
I don't want to say he was good. It was just he was serviceable. He had that, that 2-week period for the Knicks, and after that, it's just he was always injured, and okay, he was there, but he was, all around good guy, all around good locker room talent, positive influence. Okay, I can see the same way the Sacramento tried to change their culture. Let's bring in Vince Carter. Let's bring in Randolph. Let's bring in these old guys who are going to show, how to be professionals. I understand that.
Very quickly, we'll talk about the dearly departed outside of Schroeder. Bellinelli and Ilyasova were bought out, and then they both went to Philly, so I don't really count that. Mike Muscala's gone. Isaiah Taylor, Tyler Kavanaugh, Josh Maggette, or Josh Magette, however you say his name. They were just kind of G League holdovers that they just didn't retain. But Mike Budenholzer's gone. He went to the Milwaukee Bucks. So now Lloyd Pierce, who was a key assistant with Philadelphia, is going to be coming in as the head coach. I don't really know. He was more of a defensive assistant or / defensive coordinator for the Sixers, which was much improved last year, their defense. But I don't really know what Lloyd Pierce provides versus what Budenholzer did. We know what Budenholzer liked. He was more of the Spurs style.
Well, Budenholzer just rode that 1 year of we have all these guys are just shooting threes. We're San Antonio East, and then really what has he done since that 2015 season? I believe it was.
Yeah, 15.
Yeah. So what has he done? He's done absolutely nothing. The team has just gotten worse. The team has sort of eroded around him. The talent, the ownership kept. They didn't replace Horford. They kept players too long. They didn't. The management sort of didn't help him out, but he didn't help himself out by trying to change his style. So, okay, it changes. It was one of those mutual, okay, we should probably go our separate ways. He wasn't fired. He didn't quit. It was just, let's see other people. That's completely understandable. Better situation, perhaps for both teams moving forward, and but it's just this team is not. You could say Brooklyn.
There's really not much to talk about, to be honest.
But the thing is, with Brooklyn, you could say there's talent.
Things like, there's things like Justin Anderson's coming with Lloyd Pierce from Philadelphia. He's going to Atlanta, and Alex Poitras, Thomas Robinson. The rookies they brought in is Kevin Huerter along with Trae Young. I mean, I really think this is just really a spotlight to see if Trae Young is like a true premier NBA caliber point guard after he put up really good numbers in college. I think that's sort of what everybody's keeping an eye on this year.
See, but that's the thing is Phoenix, you have DeAndre Ayton. Look at Chicago. You have Dunn and Levine. Brooklyn. You have Russell and Allen. Atlanta doesn't have any star to look forward to. Like even Cleveland and their rebuild. You have Colin Sexton.
Yeah, you would have to hope that somebody like DeAndre Bembry or Tyler Dorsey takes a big leap. I mean, a giant leap. Or Amari Spellman or Huerter or Young turns out to be like a burgeoning, kind of like a Donovan Mitchell level star. That's what you're hoping for. Adam, the Cleveland Cavaliers are without LeBron James again. LeBron has departed. This time to LA, not to Miami, not to South Beach. He went to another beach, Laguna Beach.
Should I put REM's "Everybody Hurts" underneath this, or no?
Well,
let's
preface this. That's what I was about to say. In 2010-11. That team was just ripe for a shit kicking when they lost LeBron. They did not have a supporting cast. This version of Cleveland with sans LeBron, still pretty decent in terms of talent. Now the question is obviously, will they win 50 games or more? Obviously under. This is going to be a team under Tyronn Lue that's going to have to overachieve to get to the playoffs or to be like a contender type in the Eastern Conference. But they're not. The cupboard's not bare.
The funny thing about this team is people are acting like they're a lottery team now because LeBron had a 99.8% usage rate doesn't mean you didn't have Kevin Love, who was a flat-out all-star, Tristan Thompson, defensive, all defensive team when healthy. J.R. Smith can shoot lights out like nobody. You have George Hill, serviceable point guard.
Kyle Korver, still a good offensive player.
Kyle Korver, old. Larry Nance, very serviceable. The only real bad contract on their team is Jordan Clarkson.
Clarkson he was bad in the playoffs, but for the portion in which he played after the trade deadline for Cleveland, he was serviceable. But at $12.5 million or in the teen million after that with the climbing salaries per year, yeah, that's a little bit of an overpay.
They're all highly overpaid, but
Rodney Hood is not overpaid.
Rodney Hood, well, because nobody wanted him because of the LeBron syndrome. It's just you get traded there, and your essence, he just sucks the essence out of you like a vampire. Isaiah Thomas, an all-star, all of a sudden he disappears. Jay Crowder disappears. Rodney Hood disappears. And don't forget, they have young guys, Andre Zisic, Seti Osman, and Colin Sexton as young developmental players who you like Sexton, you like what you saw, but
Sexton was in that weird spot where, because the draft comes before free agency. Didn't this happen with Shabazz Napier when Miami drafted him and LeBron tweeted something and everyone's like, oh, that means he's going back to Miami and he left for Cleveland. So it was one of those situations where they drafted Sexton and they didn't really have an idea, but they did need another point guard, behind George Hill, of course. And so it was a good need pick. But they didn't have it with the idea in mind of getting input from LeBron of what LeBron wanted to do. So you were just sort of going with best available at that point. And then
George Hill's not the answer. After this year, he's going to be bought out.
But what I'm saying is that with LeBron out, it's more they're just kind of going forward with the plan they already had with drafting Sexton. They were going to use him no matter what.
Oh, yeah. And then, like I said, with Kevin Love, you're already better than half the teams in the East. Just look at – let's look at the bottom feeders. Let's look at Orlando, Atlanta, Charlotte. Which one of those teams are going to be stopping Kevin Love from scoring 25 points in 15?
Yeah, but what's going to be stopping Kevin Love's contract from being a cesspool in 4 years?
That's 4 years. We're talking about this year. And this team isn't as bad. They're not taking this huge dip that everybody's expecting. Yeah, it's hard to go from NBA Finals to probably an 8 seed, but people are sounding like they're going to be battling Brooklyn for the basement.
And here's my problem with Tristan Thompson. He's a statistical underachiever, but he's an on-the-court overachiever.
He's one of those, I don't want to say an intangibles player. He's, you have to game plan for him, and he's just out there. But, like you said, he doesn't fill up the box score, but his presence is known on the court.
Mm-hmm. J.R. Smith, still kind of a hot mess, but he contributes a little bit. Some of the other guys they bringing in, Channing Frye reappeared. Didn't they trade him to the Lakers?
They did trade him to the Lakers, and he
like Jason in the horror movies, he just pops back up.
Pretty much.
Maybe maybe Richard Jefferson can come back with him so that they could do that podcast together again.
It's just, they went from we need to be an all over 35 or all over 33-year-old team to now we need to sort of go for a youth movement. But, you could be like, well, they're already in luxury tax still. Well, we already knew that with LeBron because LeBron wanted his players and he wanted his players to get paid. That's why, the first time he left, it's like, well, why do you have Daniel Gibson getting $4 million a year? He's terrible. Well, it's because LeBron wanted him. Why is George Hill on this team? Because LeBron wanted him. Now that he's gone, I don't know what the GM has in mind.
Did you feel like they left? I don't even remember the name of who is his name. His last name's Altman. Kobe Altman. Do you feel like that LeBron kind of left him hanging because of the fact that they made those moves at the trade deadline, and even with LeBron gone, they didn't really they didn't necessarily gut the team. Like they lost Jeff Green and Jose Calderon, but
they didn't have the money to.
What I'm
to
trying
do
to say is, but what I'm trying to say is, we already talked about this. It's different from 2010. But did you feel like LeBron left them hanging by leaving behind the supporting cast that was sort of designed to back up LeBron's talents and his high usage?
No, because you need to make moves to win in the year you have. You can't make moves 3 years in advance. Did you feel like those trade deadline moves in post-mortem were winning moves? Oh, they were panic moves, and I remember how everyone thought they were complete winning moves. Like, oh, they stole them from the Lakers. It's like, well, you have Larry Nance, and nobody else is really good. Like, nobody's going to replace LeBron, but you need to put a team together.
I thought George Hill worked out for him, and I thought Rodney Hood worked out for him.
Not really. George Hill has been serviceable, and Rodney Hood needs to find his swagger again. But it's it's sort of like Charlotte. Like if look at if you had LeBron around these people, it's like, well, do you want to be around these people or do you want to be around L.A. with the stars? Like if it's just your team doesn't inspire anything other than first round playoff loss.
Who do you see here for fantasy, kind of more in the fantasy frame of mind? A guy that's really going to take the production value up. Larry Nance Jr. or
Rodney
Sam Decker,
Hood,
who they got in the trade.
Rodney Hood, I think, will be starting over Nance.
Okay, so Nance will be like a six-man. You don't think Decker will start?
Decker, no, he hasn't done anything in years. Since he's been drafted. It was always he'll be that guy.
He's had a lot of injury issues in Houston.
He couldn't make it in Houston. He couldn't make it at Clippers, so he'll be off the bench too. Kevin Love will be. I would take a high pick on him. Obviously, Hood.
Are we going back to Minnesota, Kevin Love?
Yes, that's what they have to do.
Which is not necessarily a slam. Like that's actually a good thing. Like when Love was in Minnesota, he was highly productive.
When he was Love, it was high stats, bad team player, and I see no reason everything shouldn't go through him. The real loser in this is Tyronn Lue, who yeah, I'm LeBron's friend. I'll be the coach. I could stand there with a suit and act like I know what I'm doing. Oh wait, LeBron left, and what?
He's got a ring. But all these guys, except for the ones that they brought in from the deadline, like Hood and Hill and such, they all have rings. So
then there's no incentive for them to play hard. They're just going to play out their contracts. Well, they're getting paid.
I think J.R. Smith's one of those ones that's sort of oblivious to it all. He's just going to play. He's just going to be J.R. He's going to be Earl.
All right, so here's the question. Question number one, are they going to make the playoffs, yes or no?
Yes, but they'll be like an 8 seed. They'll be one of the last ones in. They'll have to fight for it.
Question
but I think
two.
Tyronn Lue's capable of doing that.
Will Tyronn Lue have a short leash, or will he just be allowed to be like, we don't care this year?
He will be allowed that luxury this year. Okay. I don't think Dan Gilbert's going to be too reactionary.
Oh, we don't know what that Comic Sans, post.
No, it was much more Instagrammy this time. Very nice. Thank you, LeBron. Nice pictures of him at the parade when they won the title in 2016. Things like that. I mean, I feel like that they were sort of trying to. I don't want to say leave the door open, but more like we don't want to go out on a sour note.
We understand this time you're old. This is we're not paying you $40 million. You're going to kill our cap in 4 years.
Yeah.
We can't afford luxury tax in Cleveland. In LA, they can write it off like nothing.
Yeah, I could look at the team stats here. Offensively, they've always been good under Lou. I don't think that's going to change too much. I'm really interested to see how Colin Sexton works with them because he's not he's not an offensive point guard as a shooter, but he's got a lot of good like natural point guard abilities, and I think he's going to probably get a little bit of playing time. George Hill has to stick games
with Hill and Clarkson. He's starting off as a third. As you know, you're not going to pay Jordan Clarkson $60 million for him to sit and get DNPs.
Yeah, I mean, but what I'm saying is I think he will get playing time. Sexton, I mean.
Oh, yeah, but after the trade deadline, he should probably be starting. Hill will probably be moved to a contender, or if somebody goes out with an injury, he'll be quick to replace him, and then Clarkson can move to the 2. So they're not as dreary as we thought, but
they're somehow at the tax thanks to people like Hill's contract and Tristan Thompson's contract. And a lot of these don't come off the books until – well, Hill's a non-guarantee the following year, so that one you can cut loose. But a lot of these guys like J.R. Smith and Tristan Thompson, they're not going to be out off the books until 2020. So you're kind of stuck with these guys for at least a year. They're really not tradable contracts either.
No, but it's it'll be a year. Hopefully, they try to push these young guys and don't just be like, well, we need to make a playoff push. Let's play these old guys.
Adam, the Bud era has left Atlanta, and now it has landed in Milwaukee. You know, it's so weird because it wasn't Larry Drew the guy who left Atlanta to be the head coach in Milwaukee, and they unceremoniously fired Larry Drew because Milwaukee was rebuilding at the time. It was around the time that they actually drafted Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is now their pillar, go-to transcendent superstar that has basically saved the franchise. But now Budenholzer is being brought in basically as like their key addition to like put him to the next level as a coach. Do you think he can do that?
He is going to have to be the savior for this franchise.
Well, I just said Giannis Antetokounmpo was a savior.
No. Budenholzer will be because all their coach turmoil, they fired everybody in a year and a half, 2 years. They bring in Jason Kidd, who showed he didn't really know what he was doing, didn't know how to make adjustments. So you have a ticking clock with Giannis and his contract coming. So you need to have a winning team and a winning team fast, because if they're just stuck as a middling team, he'll be more apt to leave. Whereas, hey, we have a championship contender for the next 5 years. You don't want to leave.
Well, I don't necessarily look at that as like, well, will he stay or will he go type of thing. What I look at it as is that you got him to sign that deal. I want to say it kicked in last year, but they signed him at 5 years, $100 million. For Giannis Antetokounmpo, based off of the new economic standards of NBA superstardom, that's a bargain and a half.
That is, and he also said he was happy with that bargain.
That's a 20% of the cap, which is well under the 35% that Supermax.
The problem of that is you have people already poaching Anthony Davis, and he still has 2 more years left. So Budenholzer really needs to bring this team together, bring this talent, because we mentioned how they're all good players. None of them really have a defined role because their coaching never gave them a defined role. So this is the year he has to put it all together.
Are you saying that Joe Prunty didn't have a chance at getting the head coaching job after he coached him to the playoffs?
They were already in the playoffs, so it's not hard to coach.
Yeah, and to be truthful, it was sort of like PJ Carlesimo. Remember when he coached the Nets? Like, he didn't really prove much. It was just like, yeah, they're pretty good. They lost in 7 games to the Boston Celtics, but I don't feel like Prunty was like a difference. He didn't make them better or worse. He was just there. And that's not what they want. That's not what the new Bucks ownership wants. They need a game changer, and they feel like they got one in the former Hawks coach, who is more of a system based guy, likes to try to create balance. They were a balanced team anyway last year, but their rebounding numbers were at the bottom of the league. They were a bad 3-point shooting team. I'm sure Coach Bud will try to boost that. They were a slow team.
Well, they made that panic move last year with Eric Bledsoe, and that didn't work.
Yeah, I mean let me say this, because a lot of people picked on him because of the whole back and forth, the jaw jacking he had with Terry Rozier. Bledsoe was not a bad player. He averaged 17 points, 5 assists, 2 steals. He, gets to the free throw line a lot. He was pretty good for Milwaukee. He was the best point guard that they could have gotten in the outside market.
Oh, he was good for them. It's just he wasn't the player they thought he could be. But they made some nice little small additions this year in getting Brook Lopez for nothing.
Yeah, they got Brook Lopez. Ersan Ilyasova coming back, because I'm pretty sure he played for Milwaukee more than once. That'll be interesting. I don't know what kind of role he'll play. I guess he could play the center position instead of having a force feed Thon Maker and John Henson into that role.
He's a stretch player that opens up the court so Giannis can move around some more. Because Ilyasova, he was great in the playoffs for Philly.
But wasn't that the plan with Matthew Dellavedova when they signed him as a backup point guard, and it didn't really work out? Now they got Brogdon and Malcolm Brogdon and Bledsoe in front of him. So, you hope Ilyasova just doesn't kind of fall back into.
Well, Dellavedova was supposed to be that. We want to play Giannis at the point some, so we can play Giannis and Dellavedova to sort of balance them out and sort of keep. We can't have 4 6'8" guys and higher on the floor because the tiny guys are just going to run through us. So yeah. It was for balance. However, it was just like, well, yeah, he's a good 20-minute, 25-minute guy. He doesn't have that extra gear that you're paying him to have. Sort of like how Miami is seeing with Tyler Johnson. It's like, well, yeah, he's good, but he's just a good backup.
Yeah, I mean, Henson, he's definitely overpaid for his value, but he is a good shot blocker and rebounder, and he has a high field goal percentage because he doesn't take a lot of shots. But I mean, he's going to be he's signed through 2020s, but it's one of those things where you just hope that he can just show something. Televich is gone. There's just not as many bodies in the way unless Thon Maker which a lot of people have been secretly hoping for in Milwaukee, that he just takes a giant leap. But he's 20 years old. But
that's the thing. He was extremely raw, but he has the heart and the motor. So it's like, well, that's half the battle because, we've seen people like Okafor. It's like, oh, yeah, you're simply talent. Oh, you don't want to play. You don't care. Okay. No wonder you're taking a veteran minimum deal to go elsewhere. Nerlens Noel, you're a super talented blocker, but you don't care. Okay. So, he wants to play and he understands it. So, and you watch him play. He knows he's nice, very good IQ there. It's just extremely raw and needs to put it all together. The thing with this team is, like we said, their core is still there, intact. Their core and even their bench is intact.
That comes with an asterisk, though, because next summer, I'm almost sure Chris Middleton, who's their second best player behind Antetokounmpo, he is opting out of his $13 million salary. And then Bledsoe's off the books, and then Brogdon's a restricted free agent. So that's a
next
big
year.
question.
So
yeah.
Here's the question for them this year. Can they sneak into the finals?
In the Eastern Conference, with Boston and Toronto in the way, no. I can't see it. If they couldn't beat Boston in 7 games with the lineup that they had, there's no way they can beat them in 7 games. And they can eliminate Boston.
You don't think if Giannis is – because people are talking for him like he's legitimately an MVP contender this year.
Well, he's going to be every year because he's such – I mean – I don't even have to look at his numbers. He didn't average he didn't come close to averaging a triple double because everyone's like, did he average a triple double? I'm like, no, he had less than 5 assists, but he's a rebounding machine. He's like Ben Simmons. He's like the high volume version of Ben Simmons. Like if Ben Simmons was a scorer, that's what Giannis Antetokounmpo would be. But he's not the assist man that Ben Simmons is, if that makes any sense.
Oh man, that's just a. Who's another 6'10" super athletic guy? Because
let me tell you this: how many guys that at 6'10", 6'11" that can do all the positions that Giannis can and Ben Simmons?
No, just saying. Imagine the NBA, not the NBA, the Big Three league. You put Simmons and you put Antetokounmpo out there. And you put another 6'10" guy who could do everything.
Yeah.
Imagine how in 3-on-3 ball they could just destroy anybody.
Do you think he's a better shot blocker or a better steals guy, Giannis? Like when you watch him defensively, what do you think of him?
I watch him defensively. I sometimes cringe when he gets off his feet because that means he's going too hard for it. It's like, the swipes you're thinking, but when you're jumping, they're just going to run right around you. And you're out of position. Now you're playing catch up. That's a iffy thing.
Yeah, but he's super aggressive. When he's aggressive, that's when it really kicks in. The thing that's interesting about Budenholzer is that they did have Paul Millsap, but this is the one time where, with Antetokounmpo, where like this is the small forward guy or the power forward. That is your dude. That's the guy that you have to revolve it around. It felt like with Atlanta, a lot of it was more of like sharing the ball, being a high assist type of team. But with this, I don't really know if that's going to be the design.
But then what is the design? If we could say the best they could do is third place.
Inside out. I think it will be an inside out team where they put Antetokounmpo a lot into deep post position with easy scores.
Okay, but
try to make it life easier for him.
I think if a couple injuries go the wrong way, if a couple key players get injured in Toronto or Boston, I think they can sneak in with this talent, and then because they have a coaching structure, and I think that was sort of the one piece that was missing. Because they went to 7 games despite Jason Kidd, not because of. And I mean, they had what's his name as the coach, but it was still Kidd's system. You're not gonna change everything in a matter of 2 months.
And we're missing a big part here because he was in and out of the lineup because of the injury early in the year. But Jabari Parker was a valuable player for them in the years previous when he was healthy. But, I mean, how much do you think they're going to miss Parker?
Offensively, they will, but defensively, he was sort of a sieve.
Yeah, he didn't really squat or like get down and dirty on defense. That just wasn't his thing. He was kind of like almost like Simmons is, where he just sort of kind of stands there.
And he was there, and that's what we kept saying. It was just we have a lot of bodies, and he's out there. He's awesome on offense, but you have him and Antetokounmpo and Chris Middleton 6'8". You have all these players the same size sort of out there, and take your corner, learn, just pick your position and sort of stay there. So. I don't know. They'll be a fun team to watch. I'll put it that way.
All right, just a couple of quick hits. Who's got a little bit more pressure to perform? Sterling Brown, who's been in the headlines for different reasons, or DJ Wilson, who was their first round pick?
DJ Wilson's now in his 3rd year. He has to do something. His first 2 years was sort of straight DNPs. He didn't really get anywhere, and I don't know if he really has a position there. Or it was just too many bodies. He wasn't able to show something. So
we're not going to get into the situation because it's just not worth. It's just not worth the time. But it's not that it's worth the time. It's just like we just don't have time to get into it. But is Sterling Brown ready to play?
He has to be. He has to go there and do something, or else there's really no. He needs to carve out his niche.
I mean, he averaged 4 points and 3 rebounds. Like they liked him. Who's got more pressure on him now that they signed Tim Frazier and they drafted Dante DiVincenzo? Which point guard really needs to be watching their back?
Nobody, because DiVincenzo will be more of a 2.
I think DiVincenzo might be the potential replacement for Tony Snell if they trade Tony Snell.
Like I said, sort of Tony Snell. Sort of if they get somebody to take Dova, he could just if you turn him into that Kyle Korver, sort of just sit there. Oh yeah, you could play point if you need to, but
I'm
just
sure
be a shooter.
I'm sure you're figuring out but I like DiVincenzo. Like he can play. He's a sneaky beast type of player.
That's what Atlanta did under Budenholzer. Just pass it around and shoot a 3. So DiVincenzo, he should fit there perfectly.
Yeah, small potatoes after that. Pat Connaughton, Christian Wood, Trayvon Duval. They re-signed Tyler Zeller. I don't know how that happened.
In the end, John Henson's still your center, and so you're sort of just relying on that wow factor. But with this team, I think they might be able to sneak into the finals. You say there's a glass ceiling, so I guess we'll have to wait and find out on that.
All right, Adam, the New York Knicks, the Kristaps Porzingis-led New York Knicks are back. But is Kristaps Porzingis going to be ready to play?
Well, the thing about the Knicks is, that Porzingis thing really hurt them. The
torn ACL.
It killed his development. It killed everything they sort of had going for him. However, this team, we can say for the first time in, I would even say decades, has a youth movement behind them. Can you ever say we have exciting players coming in at every position? There
was that little stretch when Mike D'Antoni was coaching the team, and they had guys like Danilo Gallinari, and I'm trying to think of a couple of other ones, Iman Shumpert. But what happened is they ruined it all by signing Amari Stoudemire and then making a panic trade for Carmelo Anthony, and it kind of ruined it all. Wasn't Wilson Chandler part of that? And Gallinari, Timothy Mozgov. Like that was the youth movement. They just let it go. I don't see that happening this time with the Knicks. Like I think this is they made the signings like Tim Hardaway Jr. They're still regretting the Joakim Noah deal, but there's a possibility they might even get out of that after next year.
Well, Noah, I think they've already cut.
They have to eat it this year. The $18.5 million, they have to eat it.
I don't know. There was talks that they're going to cut him and stretch him already. So I don't know what they're doing.
There's
but
so much strife between the management and Noah that Noah will probably try to play for another team out of spite, unless they can do a Chris Bosh type of thing where they can just come to an agreement for either a medical retirement or
he's going to get bought out. There's already been many rumblings on that. But outside of him, Tim Hardaway isn't a bad player. People think nobody said don't take the $18 million. Hey, you should maybe be like, maybe pay me $12. I think that's cool. Look, his agent got him $18 million. That's good on his agent. But
they didn't like the deal at the time because he was a restricted free agent. They felt like it was an overpay.
It was an overpay, but they got something for. They got him. He's decent. The odd man out who's getting paid is Courtney Lee. I don't understand why they still have him. But you have you got Nikita Lina, who what was the last of the Phil Jackson picks. So they're sort of learning what they have with him. They think he's more of a two guard now, and he'll be good on defense.
Defensively. You know.
You have him, so he's not that point guard who you passed up Dennis Smith for. You have Kevin Knox, who, based upon summer league, will have his number retired, but that's the summer league. But he's
here's the thing, like especially with Michael Beasley being gone and Doug McDermott being gone, like they have to play him because they don't really have any other small forwards that can score like Knox can. They did sign Mario Azania, but I don't know what Azania is.
Azania, I like him. And they finally, Orlando just said, you're not going to be a two guard, be more of a sort of a small four. And he was getting better, and he was showing, it was just, he just needed some time to develop. I think that was a good signing. You drafted, this complete mystery. You just took a flyer on him with the second round with Mitchell Robinson, the kid from Western Kentucky who dropped out. And
he's from my hometown, Chalmette, Louisiana.
And just took the year off, and nobody knows what he can. But you got him for a second-round pick. You're paying him $1.5 million top. So that's a good. You could develop him up in Westchester. So you have, with Porzingis, if he is your cornerstone, there's no reason he shouldn't come back and be the player he was. You take this year as an L. We'll just pay all these old guys. Then once the old money comes off,
and he was a 2015 draft pick. That means that he's ripe for his extension, his max extension.
And they're holding it back due to the injury, which that's what you're supposed to do.
I guarantee you, it'll be signed before the new year. I guarantee it.
You think they're not going to wait till the end of the year when you come back and play healthy?
Why even run the risk of losing him or hurting his feelings as a restricted free agent? Why do that?
I don't think you're hurting his feelings as a restricted free agent. It's just the same thing with Jabari Parker. Well, you came back, but you weren't really the same player. You don't want to get yourself in that deal.
Guess where Jabari Parker is? Not with the Milwaukee Bucks anymore. If
because
fails,
he wasn't
done.
So you're going to say, let's just sign Porzingis to $150 million now? Is that what it is? And he comes back, and he comes back slow, and he comes back gimpy.
That's why I should be the GM of the New York Knicks. No.
So it's just what you do.
The new head coach is David Fizdale. We knew him from Memphis. I think he's a good coach. I just think he was in a really tough situation in Memphis.
What do you think he's a good coach?
Wait, what's that?
We think he's a good coach. It's just sort of he got ran off by Mark Gasol in ownership. Ownership took Gasol over him, and that's what in the end that's what you do. You take the player over the coach, but unless your coach is super. Fizdale, I think, should be a great influence on the guys. He's somebody who wants them to play hard. If you don't play hard, you're automatically out, and that's what Gasol didn't. He didn't like the people were tanking, and Fizdale, he's not a player's coach. Let's put it that way.
That's a good point. He's more of a tactical coach.
Yeah, he's not a come on guys, let's be buddies.
But
and
Jeff
let's all be
Hornacek wasn't exactly a genius either.
Jeff Hornacek wasn't even anything. It was just we got him because he told Phil Jackson you want me to play the triangle? I'll play the triangle. I don't.
And he was also one of the last coaches left in the spin cycle, the recycling bin of the fired coaches that are looking for a job type of deal, which happened again this summer with people like what is it, Steve Clifford and Dwayne Casey, and it just turned out Fizdale landed in New York before any of those other guys did.
Well, because he was I think he was, deserving of it. He was
one
good
of the
in
first
Miami.
ones. He was one of the first ones to wind up with the team that he wound up with. It wasn't like he was damaged goods. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I guess the only guy left is Fizdale. Fizdale wanted to go to New York.
Fizdale wanted to go to New York, and he has history working well with big men. It's just, can he work with young guys? Because in Miami and Memphis, he didn't have young players to develop.
This is do or die for Emmanuel Mudiay. Do you think he can start ahead of Ntilikina?
No, Ntilikina will start.
If he can't start ahead of Ntilikina, he's going to get cut.
No, I think he can be. They can play him together on a sort of a second unit type thing. He can spell Courtney Lee, and they can play 1 and 2. I mean, he is good defensively. I think he can sort of stick around the league as a backup.
He's such a bad shooter. If you're trying to boost your field goal percentage, you can't play Mudiay at the 1. That's the problem.
You can't play him at the 1, but I think you could play him in the second unit, and he could give you 20 minutes.
I'm pretty sure they're going to try to get something out of Courtney Lee because he averaged 30 minutes a game. Like, he played a lot.
We said this last year. It's like they should have gotten rid of him, and nope, we're going to keep him. He's part of our team. Like, but why? He's not providing anything for you. He's just giving you. Is it because I don't know? There's no depth behind him, and then who's their third string? Baker, Ron Baker. They're Ron
Baker.
Mm-hmm. They got Baker, who they offered him a deal, nobody else did, so he's the third string point guard. I think their thing is they're thinking sort of with the backcourt. The 1 and 2 is interchangeable. You could put Frank, you could put Emmanuel, you could put Ron, you could put them all. They could be 1 or 2. There's no defined position.
And it's good they have utilities in the backcourt because after Porzingis, it is, and Enes Kanter, who actually had a very good year last year, it is getting rough in the front court. Noah might never play for them again. They did pick up Noah Vonleh, so maybe they'll see him as a reclamation project. But, Willie Hernan-Gomez is gone. Kyle O'Quinn is gone. He went to the Pacers.
Kyle O'Quinn was their good signing last year, and they got rid of him.
Yeah, and he gave him a lot. He was like I always talk about how Kyle O'Quinn's sort of that dirty work type of player. Literally, like, he'll get flagrant fouls for you and block shots and like guard the biggest guy on the court if he has to.
Okay, so final question: do they make the playoffs? Can they sneak in an 8? Because you got to figure they're battling like the Detroits. Detroit.
I'm not ignoring you. I'm pondering.
I know. I'm just saying that's going to be their sort of their. You're in the Detroit, Miami, overachieving Charlotte.
I'll say no. The only way if they do, it's because Ntilikina becomes like a really good starting point guard. That would be the only way.
But in a year or two, this team should be fun to watch. If they, once they get there,
with Ntilikina and Knox and Porzingis, and then you're getting to the end with
and insert max
Jr.,
player who they're going to have next year. They should be a nice, well-rounded team. So I don't think we'll be able to say that in any of our 4-year previews of this team is actually looking up.
I think they'll win more than 29 games, which is what they won last year. But remember, they lost Porzingis in March, February. Like,
yeah, they can. Yeah. And he's going to be back December, I think.
Yeah, he ain't going to be ready. But listen, maybe they'll surprise. Maybe they'll have a winning record when Porzingis comes back. Kanter is a good player. I'll say that about Kanter. They won that Melo trade. I'm talking about when the Knicks traded Carmelo Anthony. Like,
he's a good player. He's just, we know he's a sort of a hole on defense. But who isn't? There's a lot of centers who are just holes, but he's a solid player, and people were quick to poo-poo on him.
Team stat-wise, the only thing I'll say to finish up, the Knicks just have to be good at something. Like, it feels like they're just mediocre at everything. That's been the problem with the Knicks pretty much for a while. Like, I wish they would just specialize in either three-point shooting or defense. I just wish they would find that identity. They just have not been able to do it underneath, like, Derek Fisher and Jeff Hornacek. And let's see if Fizdale can do it, because it just doesn't show on the stat sheet.
So Fizdale has his work cut out for him. But I think he's up for the challenge. We're up for watching him, and it'll finally be, okay, they're on Christmas every year. Maybe they'll actually be worth watching finally.
And give Porzingis his money. All right, Adam, the Orlando Magic are starting over again and again and again. This time with Steve Clifford. He's replacing Frank Vogel. They did re-sign Aaron Gordon, who I guess is going to be the cornerstone. Evan Fournier's there. Nikola Vucevic and Terrence Ross are at the end of their deals. Beyond the Bismack Biyombo era is over. Thankfully. What a horrible signing that was, huh?
the Elfrid Payton era is over. He's untradeable.
Well, he was traded to the Suns mid-season. But yeah.
Oh yeah, because once they got rid of him, he was well, we can't trade him. He's a cornerstone. He's part of the future, and then he became unplayable and untradeable.
Yes.
And the problem is with Biyombo and all these guys, there's nobody on this team. Okay, you signed Gordon, but you got Vucevic, whom they hate and want to get rid of, but he's too good to get rid of.
Do you think? Listen, I don't think they're as smart as to think that getting Timofey Mozgov was like a tactical move, other than we have to eat this cap space to trade away this player. Do you think Mozgov was maybe a backup plan in case they trade away Vucevic so that they have a center?
They got Mozgov because between him and Biyombo, think about it. You got Isaac.
Which contract do you want? Of course, you want Mozgov's.
Well, it has nothing to do with Charlotte taking on an extra year for no reason. Let's just compare them as players. Let's say they had equal salary. You got Mohamed Bamba, your number one pick, defensive, supposed to be defensive wonderkind.
He's looked good in preseason. Yeah.
You got Jonathan Isaac, defensive wonderkind. What are you going to do with Biyombo sandwiched between those guys who's also defensive? Nobody's going to score on that team. You need somebody who might be able to provide some sort of offensive points because Biyombo's not going to give you anything. So if you got Bamba and Isaac as your cornerstones, you need somebody who's going to.
Yeah.
Because think about that. You have him, and then you have Evan Fournier, not really a scorer. You have Terrence Ross, who really hasn't done anything there, has he?
I think the pressure's on Isaac. I think they're going to try to make him be like a 3-point shooting type of big, or maybe like someone who's got a little bit more of a diversity in his offense. Because defensively, you just said, he's got the skills. Like him, Bamba is just straight up defensive center, just all the raw talent type of player. He's like Thon Maker, only bigger and stronger.
Well, he's Thon Maker with a year in college.
He's got like a longer wings. Bamba has a longer wingspan than Rudy Gobert. Just think about it that way.
Yep, and a year at Texas playing in the Big 12, really it helped him. It helped in development because if it was, let's just say, this is 2 years down the line, he comes out of high school, he won't know how to play. Mm-hmm. The college was very beneficial for him. So him and Isaac and Gordon will be a nice, three bigs right there. Gordon's sort of the odd man out of that team. But let's just look at that backcourt. That backcourt's just ugly. They don't have anybody starting. They don't have any point guards. Well,
that's why they signed DJ Augustin to the money that they signed him for, because they felt like they just could not find one in the open market. Now they got Shelvin Mack gone, so who they bring in? Jerian Grant? I mean, he's a lost cause.
Yeah, you got Jerian Grant. There's nobody. There's no just 3-and-D guy. There's no straight I'm just going to jack threes and that's all. There's no
That's Terrence Ross. That's Terrence Ross's job.
But he's not that type of player.
Yeah.
There's no Kyle Korver guy of just sit in the corner and shoot a three, make him space out a little bit. There's like negative spacing on this team. Like we thought Minnesota had spacing problems. This team is going to be like nobody. Aaron Gordon is trying to learn a three, and teams aren't really buying it yet, and hopefully he's developed that to his game. But this team's just going to be all sitting in the paint, like all five of them.
Just to give you just simplify it for me, how good is Aaron Gordon? Like, where would you put Aaron Gordon in the pantheon?
He's one of those guys, if you're going to give money to him, I'd give it to him over Levine.
Maybe the most athletic power forward in the league? Or
he's athletic, but he doesn't – what does he do? What does he do that's great? Does he have low post moves? No. Does he have a 3-point shot? No.
He averages 2 threes a game, but maybe
he
because
has
of usage.
It's because of usage. You watch him on the court, and it's like, well, he's good, he's athletic, and his athleticism gets him there. If he has a knee injury, does he have the skills to bounce back from that? Because he's not a back-to-the-basket type player. He is just a slasher who happens to be 6'10".
I get you. Vucevic, I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. This is a trade chip right here. This is Nikola Mirotic, the sequel. He averaged 17 points and 9 rebounds a game. He's still a good player. And he's going to be a free agent. He's not going to want to stay with Orlando. What can you get in return? I mean, they're obviously going to try to get a guard in return, but what do you think they can do?
They'll get something. I mean, if they want to trade him, I don't even know if they want to trade him. That's the thing is, they
would be stupid not to. I'll just put it that way.
They've held on to him for too long. Mm-hmm. I don't know what else to say.
Well, it's not. I don't think they'll get diminished value because they waited too long to trade him. I don't think that's going to happen unless he gets like a horrible injury and the timing just doesn't work out for him. Evan Fournier, I guess we could just go ahead and call it an overpay, but he's a decent guard. But they definitely went a little too far to keep him.
Yeah, but that was just the way the time was. Like he fit into that system.
Mm-hmm.
and he was good there. It's just they didn't put anybody complimentary to him.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm sort of at a loss with the team because, I mean, they have some other guys that they lost. Like the Mario Zanya era is over. They tried to make it work, and it just didn't work out. Aaron Aflalo's gone. Mo Spates is – I think he retired, huh? Is Mo Spates out? Is Mo Spates done? Or is he still –
I don't. He hasn't really done anything there. Basically what it comes down to is outside of Gordon, all their draft picks have failed.
Mm-hmm.
Bad.
That's a good point. You know.
So, Isaac, I wanted to say, well, Isaac, but he's been 1 year, and that was after Hennigan was gone anyways.
Yeah.
So, it's the development of this is, the haul they got for Dwight Howard way back when. This was supposed to be the rebuilding, and they are probably worse off they were when they traded Dwight Howard away. So, they have nowhere to go but up, but it's just this team is going to be, it's like, how are they going to even score 80 points every game?
Yeah, they were pretty bad offensively. They had a great start to the season for those who don't remember. Like, their first couple of weeks, Aaron Gordon was like the star of the show, and they were playing really well. And then it kind of all just petered out after that. They were 26 in rebounding. They were bottom 10 in offense and defensive efficiency. They couldn't make a three. It was just, they played fast, but what's the point of playing fast if you can't get points? They were 24th in points per game.
And unfortunately, like John Madden would say, in order to win the game, you got to score more points than your opponent.
Yeah.
How are they going to do it?
I mean, Frank Vogel, I listen, I don't think it's necessarily the fault of the coach. I just never felt like they really figured out what he wanted to do with these guys. It just took too long. It was such a mess that he literally did not have enough time to fix what he wanted to fix, to be truthful. And I don't think it's going to be any different under Clifford.
No, Clifford got his players to overachieve in Charlotte, but that team sucked also. So, I mean, if expectations are so low in Orlando, it's just let's hope these kids, Bamba and Isaac can show something to be sort of a cornerstone, because if that, it's just going to be another long 5 years for this team.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other ones like Jarrell Martin. I hope it works out for him. I couldn't believe Memphis cut him. So let's see if he can prove people wrong in Orlando. I mean, the rest of them are just like very small potato type of players. Wesley Owundu, I think, is somebody.
Orlando is just a small potato player team.
Yeah,
they got their big contracts up front, and they got nobody else behind them. That sums it up.
Yeah, it's a mess of a team. I mean, it's been a mess for quite a while. The only problem I have is that I didn't feel like in the offseason they helped clean up the mess at all. All right, Adam, the Denver Nuggets. This is going to be an interesting one.
This should be the year, right? They came so close, they lost in the playoff game. They got just young talent. Their issue, we thought, was sort of a logjam, and they cleared up the logjam. So really, the sky's the limit, right?
Well, I mean, what you're saying with the logjam, you talk about sort of the older hat that they were able to get rid of, like guys like Wilson Chandler, who they finally were able to trade away.
You added Millsap, who was really square peg round hole for most of the season.
Well, he was out for the majority of the year, and then he came back late.
And they sort of need to figure out, Rodney Hood was also not Rodney Hood.
Jamal Murray.
No, Jamal Murray. They basically figured out it has to be sort of the Jamal Murray Nikola Jokic game. Mm-hmm. It just sort of you have that, and then Will Barton came along, and then. Mm-hmm. I can't think of the other. Who's the other shooting guard there right now?
Well, they got Juancho Hernan-Gomez. They got Malik Beasley.
Hernan-Gomez, another young player. Malik Beasley, another
Gary
backup.
Harris is a very good defensive player. Now,
Gary Harris, that was the player I was thinking. I was like Roddy Hood.
They gave him very good money last year. He's making $16 million a year, but is he worth that as a good shooting guard?
If he takes that leap, which he's supposed to, because they're paying him now to be Wilson Chandler.
Yeah, their top 6-7 rotation is fortified. You got the Joker Nikola Jokic, who's just, Jokic is the best. He's like one of the 10 or 15 best players in the league.
He is, and then they figured out what Jamal is, and you have, like I said, it was just, you had... You said it there. 6 or 7 players now, where it used to be 9 or 10. It's like, well, we could put all these plug and play them all in, and they couldn't all do it. So now let's sort of free up time. Everybody gets a defined role. They should, in theory, take this step.
Yeah, and Isaiah Thomas they signed away. You like the Isaiah Thomas signing? I think he's done for, but you don't.
As
agree.
A veteran minimum deal, as just a straight come in third, second string. provide 15 minutes, just score. We don't care if we give up 30 points as long as you score 32 points in your backup unit time. Go. The second unit is yours.
I think the two guys that are really going to take the leap here, one is just based off of just a hunch, and the other one, I think that his efficiency sort of points to him getting better usage and having better games. Juan Hernangomez is the one who I think has good efficiency, and the one who I think on a hunch is going to play a lot more is Tyler Lydon.
Well, they need to. They traded for him, or he was part of that whole Utah, Denver, let's sort of mix our draft picks up and move everybody around, and Trey Lyles moved.
Yeah, and Lyles is there in Denver, and he's a pretty good player. He averaged 10 points and 5 rebounds a game.
It's just, okay, now the time is for them to all step up. Their coaching system is in place. There's no big coaching change. There's no big movement.
Well, there was
entire
rumors
core.
that Mike Malone might get fired because they lost. The way that their season ended was real, like a real kick in the nuts. They lost the last game of the regular season to Minnesota, who they were battling with to get the last spot in the West. So it was a play-in game, and they lost the play-in game.
That was it. But that was their 1 year of, okay, you if they falter again or they start off slow, he'll be the first to go. His leash will be very short, but with a healthy Millsap, there's no reason they can't. If Millsap can't do it, then this team is doomed because his albatross of a contract is sort of what they're tied to.
Wait, which player you just talked about? Millsap?
Yeah.
Well, he's got a team option next year, though.
But his $30 million, if he get injured, you can't piece together something because you just gutted out for Reed, you gutted out Chandler, your backups are now young developmental players. I mean, if the team's success hinges upon him being good this year. What
did you think of re-signing Will Barton as your sixth man? He's a very good sixth man, but I mean he's at double-digit millions now.
He's at double-digit millions. This is sort of the Portland strategy. We have our core. The core is all young. Let's keep the all core together. They all grow together. Everybody knows how to play with each other. The problem with Portland is they gave too much money to their core, and they gave too much money to let's give 4 players who are all the same the exact same amount of money. This one is just they all know how to play together. Let's just all grow together. We don't need to make many big moves.
This might be a Harry Giles situation because of his injury, because they might have to write a rain check on his rookie year. Was Michael Porter Jr. a steal?
For just, with this year, with this era of, take your first year off the red shirt. We'll pay you. So as a 14th pick, they should be good.
Okay. I think he's got game. I've watched. I haven't seen a lot of him in Missouri because he didn't play a lot of games in Missouri. But in high school, stud player. But there's a lot of guys who look great in high school and they sort of don't take that extra leap. But he's like 6'10", and some people sort of try to liken him to the taller type of forwards, playmaker type of players. But I don't know if he's that kind of player. I think defensively he's good, and defense is really where the Nuggets needed the help. They were 25th in efficiency. They were 22nd in points allowed. That's where the help was needed. Their offense was wonderful. They were top 10 in everything.
But that was just all young players learning up. So efficiency should go up. All the numbers should go up because all the players are now professionals as opposed to just young college kids who are, learning.
46 and 36. Do you think they can get to 50 wins?
I don't think they get to 50 wins, but I still think, because the West is even more tougher, but I think they could. This should be a playoff year for them.
I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they can get home court in the playoffs.
But I think the battle is just to make the playoffs this year for them.
Yeah.
These kids need to sniff it. If they don't, it's a complete failure.
Let me finish you with this because of the fact that we've talked about that Minnesota game. If they'd have won that game and got eliminated by the Rockets, would our mindset be different about the Nuggets?
Of course it would. Our mindset would be completely different on the Nuggets, be different on the Timberwolves. It would be everything changes. Oh, well, they played in. Well, who do they they got Porter. If Porter develops like Harry Giles, like you said, then, well, they wouldn't have gotten him if they made the playoffs. So everything does change, and we need to see this is the year of, like we had Utah. Remember Utah barely missed it, and then all of a sudden we need to come back, and they came back a ton stronger. This is a team that needs to bounce back and show that they want to be in the playoffs.
I know what that was the one when Utah lost in Kobe's last game. Well, they were already eliminated, but they basically gave up in Kobe's last game and let him score 60 points. But they came back better the next year. So I get your point.
That's what we need to see from Denver this year. If we're by chance we're doing these previews next year and they miss the playoffs, it's just gonna be okay. This team, You gotta blow this team up. They couldn't do it.
Small potato guys. Malik Beasley, do you like him?
He never made it on the court.
Are you going to miss Richard Jefferson? He was a Nugget. He was on the team, but I don't think he ever played a minute. Monte Morris, do you think he'll be able to get any playing time at all?
Who?
Thank you. And then there's just small other people that just aren't really worth talking about. But overall, if you had like a talent ranking, the Nuggets would probably be in the top 10. They're like
if you have the top 10 is as far as teams you want to watch this year. This is a top 5 team of wanting to watch of just excitement.
Yeah, and for the YouTube type of crowd that just likes to watch those individual performances where the guy is just knocking it down and all that. Man, I love Jamal Murray. I mean, Jamal Murray's one of those guys that'll go out there and get you 30 points, but then the next day he might get you 13. He's a really talented guard, though.
We don't speak ill of cousin Jamal here. But this is a team this is their do or die year essentially.
Yeah.